Well, good day. It is already the 9th of May, 2021, and it's a wonderful day here in Virginia. I hope you're having a good weekend. And I was just looking through the usajobs.gov, the various jobs that are open, and you will find that there are pages and pages of federal law enforcement job vacancies. At least 4 pages right now. And I'm not even speaking of 1811 criminal investigator jobs, but these are police jobs. They're listed as police officer in the federal job classification system, and that is job classification 0083 or 0084. And if you look at them, what do they do in the federal government? And the answer is that they pretty much all do the same thing regardless of where they work. Okay, so you're going to have what we refer to as the Department of Defense Police, who do general law enforcement on military bases. So they would drive squad cars around on base, and if there's a domestic and military housing, they would handle that. If there's a drunk driver on the base, and whatever, there's a fight somewhere in the club, they have to break that up because every base is kind of like a little city. And you would have the same thing with the Pentagon Protective Police. And then you have the United States Capitol Police, okay, who do largely the same kind of thing that the Department of Defense Police do. The Supreme Court Police, okay. Then you have the VA Police, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Police. You kind of get the picture. There are a lot of police jobs open. Now, what do they have in common? Again, what they're doing, the type of work they're doing is very similar. Okay, but again, what don't they have in common? And that's what's the topic of this video. Some have much better retirement than others. I've done a previous video on this, and the reason for this is that Congress has taken its time in favoring different agencies. Initially, the federal law enforcement retirement benefit, which is really part of a larger, it's called special provision, covered position. And it applies to firefighters, air traffic controllers, and certain federal law enforcement officers. And initially, those certain officers were primarily 1811, which is criminal investigator, DEA, FBI, Secret Service, ATF. Now, as time went on, Congress began to add uniform positions, police positions, to that. So the Uniform Secret Service, back in 1980, they were not part of that retirement plan, but they were put onto it. Now, what difference does being on this retirement plan make? It makes a huge difference. Now, this one will show you very specifically, what the huge difference is. Let's say you're hired at age 24 in the Capitol Police. You do 32 years. Reasonable career, So you want to retire around age 56. Well, you're going to get 1.7 of your high 3 times 20. That's 34% of your high 3. 1% of your high 3 times 12, that's 12. And then you get a first supplement up to age 62, after which they want you to apply to Social Security. And if you don't, you lose your first supplement. You still get Social Security. It comes out to about 56% of your pay. Now, let's say you work over the river, in the Pentagon Police. Well, there you get 1% of your high 3 times 32, which is 32%, but you're only 56 years old, so you're retiring before age 62. You're hit with a penalty of several points, so you're going to get about 30% of your salary. Okay, you get a lot more money in retirement, and you can retire much earlier. You're mandated to retire much earlier. It's a lot of money over a long period of time, and you must retire. You can retire earlier. You must retire before you're 57. Now, is there any hope for this? Yes, there is. There is a bill currently pending in Congress. It's the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Equity Act of 2021. It has bipartisan support. So hopefully, it's my hope that this thing passes, because if it does, then it will take every officer who is a 0083 or even a 0084 and place them under the special provision, the covered position for federal law enforcement. So this means that Department of Defense Police, VA Police, Federal Protective Service people, A lot of people, really, when you stop and look at it, you're talking about thousands and thousands of officers will be added. And instead of Congress adding an agency at a time, which, again, as they did in the early 80s with the Uniform Secret Service in 1988, they added the Capitol Police. In the early 90s, they added the Supreme Court Police, And then later on, they added what had been customs and immigration inspectors. They were never covered under this, but when they were put under CBP, Customs and Border Protection, after 9/11, well, they're defending national security, so we have to cover them. Okay, all right, even though maybe what they're doing isn't exactly police work, okay? But instead of covering them one agency at a time, just everyone who carries a gun and badge in federal law enforcement should be covered. I think that is fair. I think it's equitable. Now, the sad or the downside of this is that according to an agency, an independent agency that looks at these bills, it only, according to them, has a 1 in 5 chance of passing, about a 20% chance in passing. And, so should you apply for these police jobs? If you're looking to get into the federal, let's say you want to get into the marshals. This is your big thing you really want to do. Well, marshals aren't hiring a lot of people right now. I don't think they're hiring anybody. I don't see anything on usajobs.gov. But if you get into a covered position, it's easy to go from one covered position to another. And even if you were to go to, let's say you worked in the Capitol Police from age, let's say you're 36, you worked there 8 years and the marshals open up. Okay, so you go there at age 44. It's fine. You can go from one covered position to another. What you can't do is go from a non-covered position to a covered position, because if you're over age 37, you're going to be disqualified. Now, should you take one of these jobs on the hope that they will be covered? I think they will be covered if the people in Congress ever stop yelling at each other and work together. I think they will be covered, but it's a shot in the dark. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But at the very least, it gives you federal law enforcement experience, and also sends you to a police academy at Glencoe, Georgia, where you will get the same training as you would get in another agency, just a little bit, and you could move from at least one uniformed agency to another. So I will keep tabs on that bill and let you know how it goes. There is a job you might be interested in. It's the Nuclear Materials Courier. I did a video on it earlier on which law enforcement agency is the most secretive. And they are hiring right now. They started on the 3rd. They're going to close tomorrow. And they do have federal law enforcement retirement. You'd have to move to Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Amarillo, Texas. And you got to have a top secret clearance. And if you hold a current top secret clearance, your clearance, your appointment time would probably be expedited. And it shows what your pay will be if you're hired in New Mexico or Texas. And again, I did a video on it, but it's largely transporting nuclear weapons from point A to point B. You're a federal agent, and you're charged with guarding these weapons. And look for the video that's the one on the most secretive agency. And again, what I think they're looking for is certainly high-speed law enforcement, such as a SWAT team. Certainly feel like you're in a really high-speed military position. Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, military combat duty. I went into some detail on that, but they are hiring right now. It's kind of a job you either qualify for or you don't. If you're not, they don't hire very frequently, and it wasn't something that you can get qualified for from the time I put the video out to right now, and they probably won't be hiring for a number of years in the future. But if you do qualify for it, it's a good position, I think, and an unusual one, to be sure. One last thing, and I don't promote merchandise or anything like that on this channel, but there is a book that I'm reading. It's by a friend of mine, a former DEA agent. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago. This is a gentleman who did 6 years in federal prison. Okay, and the title of the book, and this is a good book. I would not recommend. There are a lot of DEA books out there, a lot of books by former DEA agents and retired DEA. I don't recommend them. They're mostly how great I am, how great I did. We could have won the drug war if they just listened to me. This one is about, he was a DEA agent in El Paso and in Mexico, and it's about as unvarnished a look at federal drug law enforcement on the border that I've ever seen. The book is entitled Narc, Convictions of a DEA Agent by Sal Martinez. And you can order it on Amazon. I told him I would promote his book because I like it. Actually, I read it and I recognize some of the people that he's got in there. They're all under pseudonyms because you can't, under the privacy thing, you can't put names in there. But for a few dollars, you'll get a book and you can read it. And this will give you a very, very good indication of what it's like to work in DEA, number one. Number two, what it's like to work if you're going to work on the border. Okay, because that's where he did all of his work. And also, how quickly you can fall, what type of people you're going to be working for, so on and so forth. I highly recommend it. Another thing I highly recommend, if you're considering the Border Patrol or anything on the border, but there is a series that's on Fox Nation. Lara Logan has no agenda. She goes down to the border, works with the Border Patrol, is going along with them, and you see what they're going through right now.
It's a year since Fox Nation last visited the border. As a new administration enters the White House, the cartels are more powerful than ever.
Most Americans, they don't believe it.
And the cartels have a bigger presence in the U.S.
They do. It's become a national security issue.
Now we return to reveal the danger on our doorstep and what we're doing to stop it. They've been trained for war, and we haven't been paying attention.
Lara Logan Has No Agenda. The new season available now, only on Fox Nation.
I highly recommend that series. Spend the money, whatever it is, to get on Fox Nation if you're thinking of going to Border Patrol, because a few dollars may save you a lot of time and grief if you decide you look at this and say, this isn't for me. Or maybe, it will push you to where you want to do it. Who knows, but that way it gives you a very accurate picture of what the agency is doing right now. So, again, our retirement, federal law enforcement retirement, might improve. We hope that it does. And, there's a possibility that it will. And if it does, these jobs that I'm referring to will suddenly become very competitive. Right now, they're not competitive. They've been open forever, jobs on military bases and things like that. But suddenly you will see a lot of people who want those jobs, I think. So, can I recommend them? I would recommend them as much as I would recommend the Capitol Police or the Supreme Court Police. The only negative is they don't have the federal retirement, but they are probably going to get it. They're probably going to get it. So I just don't know when. So hopefully it's been somewhat informative. I mean, everything in life is, there's uncertainty, but hopefully it's been a little bit informative and enlightening, and I could point you at least in the right direction. Okay, thank you.